The following is a presentation of SIRTOBA Media and COMI Media Incorporated.
Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 9 of Total Football Talk Extra. I'm your main host, Drew Willingham, and we are here to discuss the extras within professional football, including Canadian football. Since we can't cover that fully on Mondays, we have to bring in this man right here to help us get it going. Mr. Ryan McCarthy.
Yo, what's going on, Drew?
Hey, man, welcome back to our 9th edition of Total Football Talk Extra. 9 consecutive weeks, 61 episodes of Total Football Talk under the books. This makes 70 total episodes of a Total Football Talk project. You're just as much a part of it as we are, man, as a super fan, as well as a contributor to both shows as well. So congratulations to yourself for doing the thing out here in these streams.
Thank you. Happy to be a part of it, man. When you said we need a CFL guy, I'm like, all right, I'm in. Let's go.
And we definitely have a lot to cover here on this show when it comes to the final week in CFL action for week 21. We've also got the CFL divisional playoffs. And for those of you who couldn't check it out on the other broadcast from yesterday, the Commanders Gridiron Report have a condensed version of the trip to Northwest Stadium as a fan from this past weekend. I still have the jersey. No, it has not been washed yet, but coming soon. More likely we'll have to because I've worn it throughout this week. No, I've not worn it the entire week, but I've worn it a good amount of times this week. With that being said, we have a lot to discuss, as I said, and we have to get it to the opening drive. We have the 4 games we have to look back on from the final week in the CFL 2024 season.
All right, let's go. We got trips right at 42, 989 on 2. Ready? Ready.
And here for week 21 of the CFL, we have to take a look at these 4 games right here. 2 on Friday night and 2 on Saturday between the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Ottawa Redblacks, the Toronto Argonauts and the Edmonton Elks on Friday as well. Take a look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Alouettes on Saturday, and the Calgary Stampeders, so glad it's over, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders right here for the final game of the 2024 regular season. And Ryan, we'll start this off with the Friday game that was at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and that was between the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who've been on a roll here for the second half of the season, getting towards a respectable ending and fighting hard to the end by only losing 37-31. You know, the Ottawa Redblacks in this game, which is why they are on the main cover, they end the losing run with the win over this team in the Tiger Cats. You know, looking at it for what it was, we have to take a look at the stats. Drew Brown comes back in after having some time out of here, 445 passing yards on this day. Okay, besides the 445, he had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, along with 1 carry for 11 yards on the ground. The Redblacks running backs combined, this is with quarterback rushes, included, 12 carries on the day, 96 yards on the ground. That helped establish the run to where they could, move the chains. and definitely get those points that we just talked about. So looking at that, looking at Khalil Pimpleton, he also contributed with 6 receptions for 167 yards and a touchdown. He's been a big contributor here towards the end of the season, towards helping this offense get going. But Drew Brown being reinserted this weekend definitely made a big impact. Also, Dominique Rhymes has been big, receiver-wise as well. 6 receptions for 115 yards, along with the Redblacks defense putting up 1 sack and an interception by Damon Webb, who's had quite a few this season. Definitely helps end the season on a good note. Lewis Ward definitely was a big contributor, though, special teams for them as the kicker goes. 5 field goals completed out of 5 attempts, 100% on the day, along of 47 yards, and 17 points combined was his contribution to the 37-point score. 17 out of 37 is a good amount of points that he put up for his team. Looking at that in comparison to Bo Levi Mitchell ending his season for the Hamilton Tiger Cats on a good note, 425 passing yards with a touchdown and an interception. He did help keep the team within 6 points. Mark Lehio Maehio was 4-4 on the day with field goals as well, with 46 yards, put up 14 points combined as well for his contributions towards the total. Stephen Dunbar had 9 receptions for 180 yards on the day, as well as Keandre Smith hauled in that 1 touchdown from Bo Levi Mitchell, 3 receptions for 52 yards on that day. Greg Bell, the runner, 11 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown. Also had 1 reception, though, for -1 yards. What are your thoughts when looking back on this Redblacks hosting of the Hamilton Tiger Kitties in their final season game of the year?
Yeah, this is one of those games you felt it was going to come down to the final possession, and it did. It lived up to the billing, I thought. And you got one team that's kind of playing for pride. Bo Levi Mitchell trying to pad his stats for sure with the most outstanding player. He's with the most outstanding player award for the 2024 season. Definitely did that. 425 passing yards and a touchdown. But on the other side of the ball, I think in this game we talked about it last week in our 2-minute drill, and I think I said something to the extent of the Redblacks needed to figure things out offensively, because last week against Toronto, they were stuck. They were stuck in gear. They were just spinning their wheels for the first 3 quarters, and all of a sudden, in the fourth quarter, they scored 25 points and almost win the game. So, in a very important game, because that was the game that they needed to keep pace with the hosting a home game for the playoff. And unfortunately, they came up short. But I think this game they really needed to step it up and get things into gear to prepare for the playoffs, to prepare for this week's semifinal against Toronto. And this game was helped. It was against a really good defense. The defense of Hamilton, we talked about them for the first, probably first half of the season when they were absolute garbage, giving up a lot of points, giving up a lot of yards, and all of a sudden Chris Jones gets fired from the Edmonton Elks. He basically working for free for the rest of the season. But we saw how Hamilton's defense improved for the remainder of the season. Didn't really show it in this game, but again, this is one of those games where it was going to be an offensive show, and Ottawa had to make it an offensive show because they needed that extra step to kind of get things going for the playoffs. So, good for Hamilton, good for Ottawa getting the win. And it came down to a possession inside their own 2. Hamilton was at the 2-yard line. They had 3 cracks at it, couldn't get in. And the last play of the game confused me a little bit, because I thought, all right, they're bringing both. They put in Mitre to try to run the ball in, try to get that 2 yards for the touchdown. Couldn't get on the first down, couldn't get on the second down. They bring Bo Levi Mitchell in with literally zeros, because in CFL, if you don't know, if the clock stops at 0, you could still run the play at the end of the quarter. So they had one more shot at the end zone, and I thought, all right, you gotta do play action here. You gotta do play action here. Didn't do it. Came up short, and Ottawa gets the victory, and this is certainly something they needed. This was certainly a win they needed to get. They got in front of their home crowd, who's been supporting them all year long. They've been pretty stout at home for most of the season, and yeah, this was a good momentum for next week, for tomorrow. Actually, for tomorrow's game against Toronto.
Hamilton had a pretty strong second half in comparison to how weak their first half of the season was. What are your thoughts going into this offseason? Do you think that they can keep Bo Levi Mitchell in there and still build a successful team for the 2025 season around him? Or do they need to blow this whole thing up with them having 4 losses to keep them under 500? What do you think? What do you think about this right here? Do you think that they need to retool it up?
No, I think they need to. They need to make sure that Chris Jones can stay as the defensive coordinator. I believe he has one more year on that Edmonton contract, so they don't. If he stays on as defensive, well, they call him a consultant. He's a coordinator, all right. He's a defensive coordinator. So if he stays around and they build some pieces here and there, notably in secondary, I think they could be a good team. They could run it back next year with Bo Levi Mitchell, and I think he's under contract for one more season. So they had a decision to make at running back. Who's going to be their running back going forward? It's going to be Greg Bell. It's going to be James Butler. I think it's going to be Greg Bell. But it'd be nice to have that 2-headed backfield to keep teams humble, just keep the defensive the opposing teams humble. So I think they could run it back. It's just gonna. I mean, free agency is a tough one in the CFL because a lot of guys sign for 1 season contract, they'll sign for a 1-year contract, and they'll sign somewhere else the next year. So I think multi-year contracts should be a thing again. We'll touch on that later. But yeah, I think this is a team that could possibly do some. Keep pace next year, all year next year, because they got off to that really slow start. They got things ramped up in September, that nice 4-game winning streak, and then unfortunately just came apart at the end, and this game was no exception. So I think they have a potential to do something special next year in Hamilton. I think they could be a playoff team, but we'll see what happens in free agency, because free agency makes everything just adds more chaos to what's already been a pretty chaotic season in the CFL. It could lead to a chaotic offseason.
This won't be the last time we talk about the Redblacks in this episode, but it will be the last time we talk about the Hamilton Tiger Kitties. Is there anything from this 2024 season that resonates upstairs that you would like to share with our fans out here in the tribe?
Yeah.
Thoughts on the Hamilton Tiger Kitties.
Yeah, Bo Levi still got it. He got to a slow start with Scott Milanovic, had to be benched because he wanted to see what the backup quarterbacks could do. But Bo can still throw it. He finished over 5,000 yards, almost 5,500 yards this year. I think he had 3,000-yard receivers, which is quite a thing. I mean, I remember one year Montreal had 4 1,000-yard receivers, which was absolutely nuts back in the day. But yeah, I think one thing we saw the one thing we saw from this team that's really notable is that Bo Levi Mitchell can still sling the rock, and it's a great comeback story because we didn't know if this year was his swan song, considering last year he was hurt for most of the season, and then this year he gets benched by the head coach. Wasn't too happy about it, and then after that, the defense contributed, and which helps the offense. Yeah, that's the one story I believe in. I think Bo Levi Mitchell is deserving, is very deserving of the nod for the Eastern nominee for the league most outstanding player.
I agree. We definitely had a lot of highlights of him, but just there wasn't enough around him to turn out to overall success for the team for this season. But definitely look forward to seeing what they can muster up over the offseason and what we can talk about next year during the 2025 season. With that being said, it's now time to take it into our next game of this past Friday.
Next.
So here this past Friday night, after that, there was a 9:30 game. The previous game was a 7 o'clock game. And just before we get a little too far, I just wanted to remind everyone that the BC Lions had a bye week this past week. They had the final bye, finished the year 9-9 on the year. We just talked about the fact that the Hamilton Tiger Cats finished 7-11. And the Ottawa Redblacks finished 9-8-1. So they did make the playoffs, and we will talk about them here in a little bit down the road on the show. But for our second Friday game, we have the Toronto Argonauts, who traveled to Edmonton to take on the Elks. And, the Argonauts are in the playoffs, but the Elks, the lowly Elks on the year, they came into this game with the 6-11 record, looking like the Tiger Cats, and just one win away from tying the Tiger Cats for being near the bottom of the league behind the Stampeders. Looking at this, they got the win 31-30 to improve to 7-11 after this game, but it definitely didn't come without a little bit of things to talk about, which we'll get to here in a second. So the Argonauts game, they come in. For the Elks, they have Trey Ford comes in 325 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, along with 6 carries for 81 yards. Javon Leake had 8 carries for 128 yards on the day, along with 2 receptions for 80 yards, and didn't haul in 1 receiving touchdown. Justin Rankin added 12 carries for 42 yards, but did have a rushing touchdown in the red zone. And Geno Lewis put up 5 receptions for 88 yards and a touchdown, along with the Elks defense that still put up 1 sack and an interception by Darius Bratton. They were able to put up 31 points on the day and hold the Argonauts to 30 points. As Nick Arbuckle came in for Chad Kelly, 378 passing yards for 2 touchdowns and an interception, along with Makai Polk putting up 6 receptions for 122 yards, setting up a reception for a touchdown by Deontay McMahon, who had 3 receptions for 32 yards and a touchdown receiving, as well as 10 carries for 35 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. I'd say he was the highlight of that Argonauts offense, along with Arbuckle putting up nearly 400 passing yards. And our guy Liram, if it was for Liram was the one that cost them the game, in my opinion, because the Argonauts could have won this final game of the year and ended with an 11-7 record. But instead, they lose because Liram misses 2 field goals. He was 60% on the day, 3 of 5 on the day, and only had a long of 31 yards. It's pretty weak. So Liram is the one that cost the Argonauts the game, in my opinion. Looking at that for what it is, what are your thoughts when it comes to this Elkamos Argonauts late Friday contest?
You live by the Rouge, you die by the Rouge. Just don't forget, we had the Toronto Argonauts were involved in a walk-off Rouge game just a few months ago against Drew's Saskatchewan Roughriders. When the Roughriders had that 6-game skid, and another walk-off Rouge, except it goes in the other team's favor. So, yeah, this was a nutty game, and I caught the highlights, and I'm sitting there going, I'm just watching the highlights. I'm going, okay, Toronto didn't need to win this game. They didn't need to win this game. They had second place in the East locked up. This was just a formality, just to conclude the season. Nobody wants to finish their season in a tie, especially for Edmonton, who's playing with pride, trying to give their home fans some positive momentum to show that, yeah, we want to improve next year. In fact, they had some additional good news this week. They named a new CEO and team president in Chris Morris, who coached the University of Alberta the last 12 years. He's also a former Edmonton Eskimo, 3-time grade champion. So he knows winning. This guy knows winning. And I want to see I'm kind of curious to see what he does with personnel when the offseason comes. Is Jarius Jackson going to stay head coach? Is the interim tag going to be removed from the head coach? So they got some decisions to make. They also got some personnel decisions to make. I think Trey Ford will stick around. Very impressive game in this game. 3 touchdowns, 325 yards. Also contributed on the ground. He's a dual threat quarterback. And with the way that offensives have gone through the evolution, especially at the quarterback position in both the NFL and the CFL, you need a dual threat. And Trey Ford is that guy. He's a dual threat. He's got a weird motion when it comes to his throwing motion, but hey, guess what? It works. It works. It's effective. So this is a good momentum builder for next season, because Edmonton's gone through a lot of changes. We've gone through a lot of changes, especially over the last 5 years, especially after the Uncle Melvin year. I won't call it for what it actually is. It begins with a C. Shh, we don't want to get tagged with a label. but they've gone through the ringer. They were as being a community-owned team. Now they have private ownership with a local businessman buying the team, and a lot of momentum went forward after that. Remember, at one time, the Elks were winning. They won 5 out of 6 games. They won 5 out of 6 games, and they were starting to build the momentum. And unfortunately, after the bye week, they get beat by Winnipeg, and which basically ended their playoff hopes. But yeah, this game, it kind of defined the season for them. And yeah, they finished under 500 once again. They're out of the playoffs once again, but at least you have some hope going into next year. And this game kind of typified that. It says, all right, this team is scrappy. This team can play defense. They had another turnover. They caused another turnover, had 1 interception, had a sack against a very good, very well-coached Toronto Argonauts team. So this game was good for Edmonton, getting that win to cap off the season and giving their fans something to hope for next year. This could very well be a playoff team if they can, like I said with Hamilton, if they run it back, bring back a lot of the guys who were with the team this year, stabilize the quarterback position, maybe add a few pieces here and there, especially on the offensive line. This team could very well be a playoff contender at this time next year.
I can see that, because I mean you have brought that up once or twice before this and during this season about next year for them, but right now it's definitely over in your opinion as far as this season, and it is now on paper, because at least they finished better in the West Division than the Stampeders, which we'll get to them. And we'll get to them in just a second.
We don't have to talk about them anymore the rest of the season.
Not after this, thankfully. Not after this. I'm looking forward to it, because their entire season, the Elks season for a good part, it's all been. With that being said, let's go ahead and take it to that Calgary Stampeder game. Saturday, 7:00 p.m. Eastern time. This was the late game of the 2 games on Saturday, but it definitely does not deserve to be in our game of the week review. So we're going to put it here and discuss it. And that was this contest. It was definitely a bowling shoe ugly mother father and contest. Calgary Stampeders came to town against the Saskatchewan Roughriders in the final game of the 2024 regular season. 7:00 p.m. Eastern time was this game for the week 21 contest. But yes, Stampeders, it's the final time that we have to talk about them for the rest of this year, and I'm looking.
Don't you have the praise music for that? Come on, we got to put the praise music for that.
I don't think we have any.
I don't think Cole put that in.
No.
Okay.
We'll let that be our guy Cole Johnson's thing.
I have it in my head.
He didn't. As I'm saying it, just imagine it. As we're talking about, Jake Meyer finally gets back in the game because he wasn't there last week. Okay, he wasn't there. And for the Calgary Stampeders, puts up 293 passing yards and 3 touchdowns on the day, along with 2 carries for 14 yards. But keep in mind, as we talked about before, the Roughriders probably weren't playing so hard. And we talked about that the other day when we were off the air, because of the fact that the division was already locked up and they were going to be, playing in the first week, so they needed to rest some players. And that's what happened in this game. It's basically, it wasn't like we gave you the game, but you were playing against the second and third strings of this team. And that's why Jake Meyer was able to put up 3 touchdowns in the air. Dedrick Mills put up 20 carries for 128 yards on the ground as well, for 2 receptions, 36 yards in the air. Clark Barnes added 3 receptions for 90 yards as a receiver, with 1 reception touchdown on the day. Marco Michelle had 2 receptions for 65 yards and a receiving touchdown. Stampeders defense, though, 3 sacks, along with the kickers. Rene Paredes is 2 of 2 on the day of field goals, the long of 37 yards. And it's kind of weak, but he got the job done, put up 9 points towards that 27-point total. So look, hey, it's getting it done. Now on the other side, it was absolutely dumpster Pelican worthy. When you look at Jack Cohn, backup quarterback, Trevor Harris over there of the Roughriders, at 100 passing yards on the day, and he had 1 touchdown. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over, but hey, just 100 passing yards. It's kind of trash. Also had 3 carries on the day for 14 yards. Frankie Hickson gets another opportunity at running the ball as they gave A.J. Alouette the day off. Had 12 carries for 54 yards on the day, along with Jarrett Stearns, 4 receptions for 69 yards and that receiving touchdown that was hauled in from that pass by Jack Cohn. There wasn't much highlights other than Brett Lowther's 2 of 2 on the day of field goals for 50 yards just to keep him warm and ready for the playoffs. Ryan McCarthy, what are your thoughts when looking at this ugly contest between the Stampeders and the Roughriders?
This wasn't ugly. This was fugly. Ugh. I mean, we talked last week about what would happen with the Roughriders depending on how the game previous went, because we're going to talk about that in the next segment. They started Shea Patterson, didn't do great. Brought in former New Jersey Generals quarterback, Jack Cohn. Bring back the Generals. who had a day, 100 yards, touchdown, 14 yards rushing. But yeah, this was just a game. It was just kind of it was like, all right, well, we know our fate. All the guys we were planning on had on game time decision, whether it be on offense or defense. We'll give them the week off, let them rest, because next week is going to be much more important than this game. With Calgary, and again, another one of those games you want to end the season on a high note. And on Monday or Tuesday, the organization announced they're going to keep Dave Dickinson as head coach and GM, but they let a lot of other personnel go. So there's going to be a lot of changes in Calgary next year. And then again, free agency could do a lot of things, help out a lot. As I suspect, also the draft could do the same thing. But as for this game, yeah, it was one of those games where it's just like it's just there. It's just not a whole lot to talk about, not a whole lot to write home about. And it showed for Saskatchewan, at least for Saskatchewan. And I listened to the post game after coming home from my local watering hole. Listened to the post game with Coach Corey Mace, and he was like, "Yeah, that's not Roughriders football. That's not us." But again, this is a game where it was just, where you stood. You're going to host a playoff game Saturday, but you played a lot of your reserves. So if you really wanted to play Roughriders football, you would have played your starters. You would have put Trevor Harris in. You would have put AJ Willett in. You would have put Roland Milligan in. You would have put all those guys in you wanted to play, but instead you kept them on the bench. You just said, "Don't dress. We know where we stand. We'll just put in the reserves." And well, this is what happens when you play your reserves, especially against the last place team. The team is going to pick first in the CFL draft next year. So yeah, you better show up on Saturday. Let's just put it that way.
Bro, this game was terrible. This is one of the worst things I've ever watched, as far as highlights go, because I did not watch it live. I will admit, I did not watch it live. I'm not ashamed by it either, just because we already knew it was happening. And even though there was a glimmer of hope, if the Blue Bombers would have lost, they would have had a chance to get the first seed. For the Roughriders, same time, it's better off just to save it, because we have another game that we have to talk about that I have some questions about, especially after seeing that game and what we're about to review for that contest as well. So looking at that for what it is, at least the Calgary Stampeders didn't take the on their final game of the 2024 season, after giving their fans a dumpster Pelican performance all year long. They already locked up the number one worst team of the league seed, so they can get the number one pick in the CFL draft next year. So, speaking on experience, how coveted is the number one overall pick in the CFL draft in comparison to the number one overall pick in the NFL draft?
You got 9 teams, so I would say but this year is going to be very important because Curtis Rourke, Nathan Rourke's little brother, playing at the University of Indiana, by the way, I think they're ranked in the top 15, if I'm not mistaken. University of Indiana in the Big Ten of the NCAA. He's the number one. He's rated the number one prospect. So if Calgary can convince, if Curtis Rourke doesn't go to the NFL, which I think he's going to try to his damnedest to get into the NFL, he at least has a shot in the CFL. And you don't see many Canadian-born quarterbacks play in this league. But now you're starting to. Now you're starting to have homegrown guys who can play the position, and that's what you want, right? You don't want all your players just being wide receivers and offensive linemen and linebackers and running backs. No, you want every position on the field to succeed and have a Canadian in there. So if Curtis Rourke doesn't declare for the NFL, doesn't make his way to the NFL draft, doesn't go to the combine, he's at least got a shot in the CFL. And if I'm going to look correctly at Curtis Rourke, let me see what year he is. I believe he's a senior because he's a transfer. He transferred from the University of Ohio.
Nathan's brother Curtis, and he's 24 years old. So I suspect that he is currently. Yep, he's a senior. He's a senior at University of Indiana. So better be a senior at 24 years old. Jeez.
Yeah. And look, you got guys playing in their 9th year of eligibility, okay? They're almost 30 at this point. CFL rules are wacky. NCAA rules are wacky these days. But yeah, I mean, if they can try to convince Curtis Rourke to come home and play in his country, play in his native country, the fate of the Stampeders could change in an instant. But he's been playing American football for the last 4 or 5 years, so might be a tough sell, especially if he's a guy who NFL scouts are looking at to be in their lineup for the foreseeable future.
We'll have to see how things pan out, but I was just wondering how coveted it was in comparison to the NFL draft. But definitely a lot of questions that need to be answered. But we do have one from our fan right here. Our friend, Sick Diggy is in the house. Says, what's good, everybody?
It's good, Sick. You notified us in the No Credentials Required Discord chat. Ding. That this month is Black November in Norway.
Nice.
Yeah.
I need to get better about using Discord. Like that and X. Like I'm not that great. I need to get better with social media. Like I focus on the main ones that I believe in. You know how it is. But
I know how it is. Yeah. You're trying to get better too.
As he's rocking and rolling with us right now on YouTube. Also, shout out to everybody who's tuning in on COMI Media as well. For our guy Cole Johnson, the co-producer of this program, along with myself for Total Football Talk XTRA. Along with co-host Ryan McCarthy for the CFL season. But yes, that's what's good here in the moment. Keep those comments rolling. Appreciate you guys tuning into this live. We got much more to talk about because we still have to take it to the game of the week. And here for the game of the week, we're going to take a look at two teams, two playoff-bound teams, and that is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Montreal Alouettes, who happen to be on a bye this week. Both of these teams do because of how well they played in this season. Now let's discuss the teams at bay for this game of the week. We got the Winnipeg Blue Bombers who came in and won this game as the road team 28-27 over the Montreal Alouettes this past Saturday. This was the early afternoon game because I thought it was the best of the week between two of the best teams in the league. It deserved to be in the game of the week spot. When you got Zach Collaros who put up 331 passing yards and a touchdown in the win, along with 3 carries for 21 yards on the ground. Brady Olivieri, he had 11 carries on the day for 35 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown, along with 3 carries for 11 yards in the air. Terry Wilson Jr. contributed with 1 carry for 2 yards and a touchdown, along with Ontario Wilson's 8 receptions for 83 yards in the air. Nick Dembski had 4 receptions for 90 yards and a receiving touchdown, along with Kenny Lawler's 4 receptions for 105 yards. The Blue Bombers defense only put up 1 sack on the day, which is why this game was probably as close as it was. Looking at the other side, the Alouettes put in 2 different quarterbacks. Cody Fajardo played for most of the game, put in 171 passing yards and a touchdown, along with 2 carries for 6 yards. Davis Alexander put up 100 passing yards on the day, along with 3 carries for 4 yards and a rushing touchdown. So both quarterbacks contributed in the touchdown department. Looking at Walter Fletcher, also a main contributor this season, with 12 carries for 53 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. Also had 4 receptions for 41 yards in the air. Kyle Spiker had 3 receptions for 71 yards. I'll say that again because I'm getting ready to say for the playoffs again. Kyle Spiker. Can't say that name enough. 3 receptions for 71 yards. Charleston Rambo, though, got the touchdown away from Kyle as he had 2 receptions for 5 yards and the 1 receiving touchdown that was passed by Cody Fajardo. Jose Maltos put up 2 of 2 field goals today on the day. He had 2 completions for 2 attempts on the day, and one of those was a long of 45 mother-father in yards. Ryan McCarthy, looking at this game for what it is. Is this a true preview of what we could see in the Grey Cup finals?
Yeah, this game lived up to it was a heavyweight battle. It was a heavyweight battle between 2 defenses. I'm looking at the team stats for this game. It was practically even. Total offense, both teams 384 yards for Winnipeg, 375 for Montreal, 19 first downs apiece. They both had 1 sack each. The only difference, and actually second down conversions, Montreal 58.3, Winnipeg 50. Now, the only difference was red zone attempts. Winnipeg converted on 2 of 4. Montreal was 3 for 3 in the red zone. So this was an even match, but here's what happened at the end. My goodness, if you caught the highlights or you watched the game, what an ending. What an ending. Because Montreal's up 2 with less than a minute to go. They were forced to punt in their own end. And all of a sudden, just this crazy gust of wind takes over. It takes over the field at Percival Molson Stadium. You just see leaves, you see rain. The weather was not ideal, but it's the fall. It's the fall. What are you gonna do? But yeah, all of a sudden, weather takes over. Alouettes punt. The punt barely goes anywhere. It stays, and then the ball stays in. Winnipeg is in Montreal territory. All you gotta do is run a couple plays, get positioning in the middle, get the wind to your back, let Sergio Castillo rip a field goal. And that's what happened. They had a couple plays, get within a certain distance, and the leg of Sergio Castillo does the rest. And this was one of those games. Now in the Grey Cup, obviously weather's not going to be a factor because it's going to be indoors, but this could certainly be a prelude to what we could see in 2 weeks. I'm sorry, in 16 days at BC Place in Vancouver. This game lived up to the hype. This was not like week 1 when Montreal controlled every aspect of the game. And even with Cody Fajardo leaving the game early, because again, you want to keep your starters fresh. You put in a very capable backup in Davis Alexander, who won a few games this year for Montreal. Played well. Did what he needed to do. Didn't turn the ball over. This game lived up to every expectation I had for a really good game, and it didn't disappoint. And if these two teams went up in the Grey Cup, they run it back to the Grey Cup this year in a couple of weeks, I won't be surprised. These teams are very good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And the one thing I will say is, the Blue Bombers running back, if they don't get him going early on in that game, if that does happen, they have no shot, and it will not be this close. Because on the production that he had in this game, I'm very surprised the game was as close as it was. Because they've been, when he's ran the ball well, they've had strong results out of it. And going up against a team like this, I feel like there's no other way than for him to have his best game of the year. It would have to be in that Grey Cup. Maybe he played it safe. Maybe we could have seen more flashes of that. Maybe there were certain ones where they went half speed, which is something we'll have to take a look at in comparison to this final week's contest. And if they do face off against each other in the Grey Cup, but I'm hoping that my Saskatchewan Roughriders can serve a big fat. This weekend, and we'll talk more about that here in just a little bit, but we do have a couple comments that we have to acknowledge before we go any further. Sick Dicky says, for certain outlets, it's Black Month, but for other outlets, it's Black Week.
Yeah, when you mentioned in the No Countries Acquired Discord, that it was Black Week or Black Month for Norway, I was kind of afraid to ask. I'm like, oh no, why is it called? What's it called Black Week? What's it called Black Month? Then he clarified. I'm like, oh, no, that's not a big deal.
And that's what makes, our podcast international, because Sick is, checking out our stuff all the way over from Norway. So again, shout out to our friend Sick Dicky, who I look forward to getting back on D Willy in the evening here soon when that fires back up here in November. I'll be announcing the actual day of November that it's coming out here very soon. So yes, if you're looking for the shenanigans, it will be back this month. I've been doing some promo work with this week and behind the scenes that I'll be posting here soon. But can't take all the eggs in the basket already. Gotta leave with something hanging. Even though we're close, like 6 months or so away from Easter, still gotta play the game. So also, happy November, gentlemen.
Oh, he says Movember because that's the one. That's the oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Or as I call it, No Shave November. But it's also No Shave every year. The last time I was, fun fact for this show, the last time I was clean shaven, February 2018.
Nice. Yeah. For all beard enthusiasts out there like myself, I appreciate it, because I don't look the same without it. So that's why I keep going.
Same. I mean, although I had to trim my beard this week because I had a job interview, so I trimmed it up a little bit and had to look presentable.
I've lost a couple battles with the razor sometimes and had to trim it down just because. But other than that, except for when I grew the hair out really long, I did trim it kind of low then just because I couldn't maintain both.
Yeah,
it's a lot. Yeah, I put in beard oil, and there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff outside of football we could talk about when it comes to beards for like the next hour, but unfortunately we have other things we got to talk about. So
yeah, this is total football talk, not total facial beard talk, facial hair talk.
But we probably should get some type of beard sponsorship since we're both rocking
Yes.
pretty mean beards. All right. So we need to do that. Not just in Norway, but throughout Scandinavia at Ryan McCarthy.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for the update.
That's why Sick is like our Tony Reale of our programs. That's why I love it when he's here, because he brings the shenanigans with us to help encourage it. But at the same time, with the ad reads, which I'm still waiting for one, Sick Diggy, I'm waiting for some. Come up with something new. We need something new today. We still got plenty of show left, like another 30 minutes. So look at this right here for what it is. I need an ad read. Now, with that being said, before we go into our usual picks for Dog of the Week and Snowflake of the Week, and then our 2-minute drill, because we have less games that we have to cover next week. If you guys didn't get a chance to check out Commander's Gridiron Report yesterday, I'm going to give kind of more of a condensed overview of what I had happen this past weekend when I went to the Commanders game when they won that thriller of a game in overtime. Well, not overtime, but the Hail Mary play at the end of the game when Noah Brown caught that pass. I'm going to show a couple clips before the game and after. But when it comes to preparing a tailgate, this is how you do it right here. Paul Kelly about to do what he does best. Cook food. Maybe not what he does best, but part of the things that he does best. Master Chef. I want to make sure I bleep that part out, though. Marinated some chicken. What is that in there again? Jalapeno juice and carrots?
Jalapenos and carrots and all the juice that goes with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's get one in the bag. That's all the stuff he had it marinated in.
Throw some meat church fajita on it.
That's what I'm talking about. Hell's Kitchen doesn't even know what's up with this one. Yeah. And this was the after effect right here of that work right there. This chicken with some melted pepper jack cheese along with the bun on top, a little bit of tomato, some other stuff. That's what it turned out to be. One great chicken sandwich. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at the overall tailgate.
Here we go, Ryan.
This cooler right here speaks America. In the little grill. Oh, Taylor, let's show them what's inside. This is our other camera guy.
Got some Mexican chicken going on.
Got the seats set up. Paul Kelly already got a video of us in the red zone. The SIRTOBA logo. That cooler right there, Ryan, was from the 50s. It's my grandpa's old cooler from back in the day. It's still, I looked at it earlier. The water is cold and there's still 2 ice cubes in there. Now all the beverages are gone out of it, but I just wanted to see how long it would hold. And I put ice in it Saturday night. It's now Friday. It's been 6 days. Pretty much most of it has stayed cold. Now, we had one more clip to show you how to properly watch football while doing it. People, I am D Willy, and this is how you motherfathering tailgate with Red Zone on a phone from a video on another phone. You can have it right here in the parking lot. If you have a phone in another phone, recording a phone with video on it on another video. This message is brought to you by D Willy, where SIRTOBA Media, where it is the struggle to be real, to be awesome. Right there. That was basically the shenanigans that we had going into the game. So, we have these seats. This is the section that we're sitting in. in the direction of the end zone where Noah Brown caught that Hail Mary pass. So we had this type of view from right there, watching the Hail Mary. So and
Nice.
also won a prize.
Awesome.
Also won 2 free beer koozies. We went and got it at halftime, but this was on Paul Kelly's chair. And we went up there, and there was 2 of them that he got. So he gave me one, and then he had the other one, and we were able to have adult beverages in said koozie for the second half. It was nice.
Very cool.
Then, we're looking at Jaden Daniels, and he is him. Let's just remember that. He literally is him here. He's out here. He's doing his thing. The game was kind of ugly. It's like a Tim Tebow game for most of the game. 3.5 quarters. It was low scoring action. The Commanders are up 12-0 before the Bears scored, and it was 12-7, and they scored again with the 2-point conversion to go up 15-12 with 25 seconds left. Terry McLaurin goes on an out route up there by midfield, catches the ball, and goes out of bounds with 2 seconds left. And with 2 seconds on the clock, Jaden Daniels heaves a ball up in the air that doinked off the pile because someone was out of position, Mr. Tyreek Stevenson, because he was taunting the crowd.
Shame.
And then it sets it up for the catch right here by Noah Brown. And I tell you what, the celebration within the stands was wild. You got dude over here to the left doing some type of come on move. Me and Paul Kelly were jumping up and down, going wild, beer in hand, still wearing sunglasses at that point because there's plenty of lights in the stadium. So I was having a great time. But yes, we're all celebrating. The place was electric there. It was absolutely wild. We got to go there with my guy, Paul Kelly, have a great time. Darrell took a picture of us in the crowd right here. So I have this moment to remember for, forever, with not only being there for the Hail Mary game, but having pictures like this to look back on. And I got a moment with him at the end of the game as well. And he was holding the SIRTOBA Media Championship. Got a picture of him with the belt. And then looking at the other last thing that I want to bring up, got a Bears fan to hold a championship after the game. Bears fan holding the belt, acknowledging the loss right here. Ryan McCarthy, what are your thoughts looking back on this type of event that I witnessed this past weekend?
Very cool. Very cool. Hopefully I get to hold that belt someday myself.
Oh, you will. You will. How about you and Cole? It's all part of the tour. I have to get all of you to hold it, get a picture of you with the belt, and also an individual picture, which I have one up here, but it might not have loaded the stream of Darrell with it by himself. But I'll tell you what, it was definitely an experience of a lifetime. I could not have planned for something like that. You plan to be there, but you don't plan for that type of experience.
Or that ending.
Yeah, the ending. I mean, it all came from that. The experience came from that type of ending. I mean, just for everybody to be overjoyed, except for the Bears fans that were talking smack with 25 seconds left. And they were. They were the deep dish pizzas, all that was coming out of their rear end. It was all, they're talking so much mad expletive. It's bad.
Then what happened? Then what happened?
I just told the people around us to believe. You got the heavyweight champ in the house. You got the SIRTOBA Media champion here in the house. Gave it to Darrell, but at the same time, before that, we're in the crowd. We're showing that we're champs. You got to believe. Just like the kid in Angels in the outfield, he believed it could happen. So he believed. We got to that point. Bears fan had to hold a championship in acknowledgement of loss. And then 2 days later, this came in. As a fan of SIRTOBA Media had this made. It didn't get here quite in time. She was hoping to get it here before I went to the game. Instead, it got here on Tuesday. But hey, it's all about the effort. Whether I was going to the game or not, it was cool to get something like that from a fan out here in these streams. With that being said, let's go ahead and take this into some further things. We got a couple comments that we have to acknowledge. The previous discussion regarding beards is brought to you by Strongman Beard, your one-stop shop for all beard requirements. Behold, be bearded, be strong. And Smooth Face Razors, the ideal line for the shaving man. Keep it clean, keep it smooth. One question at Drew Willingham: when it comes to tailgating Does one have to rely on their telecom provider, or does the stadium sporting venues provide Wi-Fi? No, they do not provide Wi-Fi. So we did not have Wi-Fi during the tailgating experience. It was all based on the phone bill, and it's probably going to go up a little bit because I used quite a bit of service that day, but I don't care. It's the experience that you're there for, and I got to live it, and I'm still wearing the jersey days later as we're talking about Total Football Talk Extra right here and now. The Bears fan can barely contain his disappointment while wearing the SIRTOBA Media Championship. Look at this, right?
Oh.
I didn't make him wear it. He said it was a cool belt, and I said, well, hey, you got to take a picture with it. Not knowing my intentions, I had him take it on purpose, just so we could say somebody that lost in the game against the Commanders had to wear the mother-fathering belt. He was a genius. Somebody told me I was a genius for doing it, but I just thought it was funny. I just thought it was funny, Brian McCarthy. But right here now, we got Sick Diggy says, nice hoodie. Thank you. It's all about the effort and the thought that counts. Snowman is here. Snowman says, hey, go Lions. Detroit. I want to get a deep dish pizza.
No, BC. He's a BC Lions fan.
Oh, that's right. I mean, I thought you were going to be a 49ers and a Lions fan, but at the same time, BC Lions fan of the CFL. Okay, so the BC Lions Snowman finished 9-9. We'll talk about them here in a minute. We're about to get to our picks here in a second, but yes, BC Lions, good to know. I want to take a picture with that belt. Yes, I got to make my rounds. I got to go on tour next year in 2025. Just like, take a week off like I did this week, but not do something that takes all the energy out of my sales for the half the week like this past Sunday did. It took me like a few days to recover from that. It was a whole different type of experience we'll talk about.
Yeah, I've noticed
later.
your voice. I've noticed your voice is a lot less raspy than it was on
yes.
Tuesday when you were on with us.
Yes, Tuesday I was giving you all I had. Just I saved Commander's gridiron report for last night. Had Kyle's show on Wednesday. I basically did one per day, but you could tell if you watched this past week, the evolution of my voice getting better. It's still like not quite there, but it's close. It's close. I did a lot of yelling this past Sunday, but it was for a good cause. Yes, Snowman, definitely want to get you to take a picture with the belt too. Get all of you to take a picture with the belt. But what we have to do next is we have to take it to our dog of the week.
All right, let's go. We got Trips right at 42, 989 on 2-on-2-on-2. Ready? Ready.
Total Football Talk Extra.
Where my dog's at? There's one right over there. There's Mr. McCarthy, and he's got to explain who his
There's one right there.
dog of the week is. Mr. McCarthy, who's your dog of the week?
Despite the losing effort, gotta give this dog of the week to the dog who's been in the league for what seems like forever, but he's still swinging the rock. Bo Levi Mitchell. He's, like I said in our segment when we talked about this game against Hamilton Tiger Cats, there's a reason why he is the Eastern nominee for most outstanding player, and he threw for 425 yards. Granted, he was outdueled by Drew Brown's 445 yards, but let's put it this way: for a good part of a decade, Bo Levi has delivered. All right. 2014 Grey Cup champion, 2018 Grey Cup champion. He took the Calgary Stampeders to the playoffs. Every year he was there. Got traded to Hamilton a couple of years ago. Had it rough last year without having to play, without playing at a whole lot. But this year he came back. Went through some adversity, being benched, and finished the year strong. Finished over 5,000 yards, far and away the leader in passing yards this season. That's not to say that the Hamilton Tiger Cats offense was bad. It just got off to a really slow start. But my dog this week, and pretty much my dog for like the entire second half of the season has been Bo Levi Mitchell. I believe, and I believe he should win most outstanding player in the CFL this season. That's just my opinion.
It's a great pick. We'll definitely touch more on like our pick for like that award here later on, but you select that for this past week as well for your dog of the week, and I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction. I'm going to go with another quarterback, but I'm going to go with a quarterback that we're not going to have an opportunity to talk about for the remainder of the playoffs because his team is mathematically eliminated. Talk about a quarterback for a team that I don't think I've put in this category for the entirety of their 21-week season between Total Football Talk and Total Football Talk Extra. I'll have to go back and look. But I'm talking about Trey Ford. It's my pick for dog of the week.
Nice.
What he did to lead the Elks to a win over the Argonauts this past weekend. 325 passing yards on the day with 3 touchdowns in the air, along with adding 6 carries for 81 yards on the ground. You know, he was gutsy enough and, you know, had the leadership to get his team over the edge and win this game for his team. That's why I pick him as my dog of the week.
Solid pick. Guy end of the year on a high note. That's what he did with the Elkamos or the Elks.
Absolutely. And if you're just now tuning in for the first time on this channel, please subscribe now and never miss out on new content, whether you're watching on No Credentials Required, whether you're watching on COMI Media or on SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this take on up and take it into our pick for Snowflake of the Week.
Total Football Talk Extra.
Hey, it's time to get chilly with the Snowflake pick of the week. Mr. McCarthy, who was your worst player of the week in the CFL?
I'm going to go with an entire team for this one. I'm sorry to pick on them, but I got to pick on them, Drew. Drew's Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Ouch.
Putrid effort. But again, I understand where Corey Mace's head coach Corey Mace is coming from. Your fate was sealed after that Winnipeg walk-off in Montreal. But your second stringers did not put, and your third stringers from, let's put this way, your second and third stringers, they didn't show up. They didn't show up, especially on offense. 210 yards. 210 yards in 2024 CFL action. It was not a great effort. Not a great effort. I understand what you're trying to do, trying to rest your starters for next week, for tomorrow's game against the BC Lions, which is going to be, I think it's going to be a heavyweight battle. But the reason why you need a second string and a third string that can play strong is that in case they're relied upon to play in a game like tomorrow. What happens if Trevor Harris goes down? What happens if AJ Willett goes down? What happens if your best receivers go down? Your best defensive starters go down? You want to have them game ready. And against a team like this, like the Calgary Dead Horsies, who have been out of the playoffs for like the last month and a half, didn't show up, and that makes me pretty disappointed. Not mad, I'm just disappointed, and that's why the Saskatchewan Roughriders is the team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They get my Snowflake of the week.
Ryan picking on my Saskatchewan.
Sorry, buddy, had to do it.
It's okay. To be honest, I was going to pick on them too. So you actually slid in there first before I could. So I'll let you have the moment. I'm going to pick somebody else. Not go with the team because I was you probably saved a few minutes of my life. But I was about to go off. You handled it a lot better than I would if I would have got a little emotional. Like I was talking about the Roughriders' name. Now, looking at it here and now for what it is, I got to go with the person. It's my pick. My pick is going to be somebody who's on a team that has a bye this week. Somebody who's a big reason why they won the amount of games and finished with an 11-7 record. He is the running back for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That's my choice. Brady Oliveira, who had 11 carries for 35 yards. And yeah, he had a touchdown, but 35 yards and 11 carries. They are so mother-father unlucky that they did not take the...
Let me talk to you.
They did not take the... Because the other team, they could be facing off in the championship game, in the Grey Cup. They were...
You're fucking scared. Yeah, you're fucking scared, man.
To finish the game. But he also was. When you have 11 carries for 35 yards, you are scared.
You can't handle the truth.
That too. Also, 3 receptions for 11 yards. Yes, you did get a rushing touchdown.
Acknowledge me.
I'll acknowledge that. But you absolutely sucked when it came to yards per attempt. So
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
make sure your mouth is shut during this bye week. Make sure your head's in the books. Make sure you're putting on a VR headset. Make sure you're doing whatever you can do to prepare yourself for this upcoming game that you have in the division finals after a week rest, is all I'm going to say. Because if not, it will not be a total.
Surprise, motherfucker.
When you lose and get ousted in the finals before you even make it to the Grey Cup because you couldn't establish the run. The only reason why the Blue Bombers got to 11 wins after starting off in a horrible fashion to start this season was because of the back of Brady Oliveira. You have to get him going. And with that being my pick for Snowflake of the Week, there's no way that you will be able to
Stop it. Get some help.
without him leading the charge. And I rest my case, Mr. McCarthy.
Yeah, solid pick. Yeah, I mean, Montreal's run defense is tough. Yeah, but I've always said this for the last 14 games this season with the Blue Bombers after they got to a 4-0-4 start, and then they kind of got things going. The running game was a big reason why. And if you can't perform well against the teams like a Montreal Alouettes or Saskatchewan Roughriders who have very good run defenses, you're gonna rely on your arm, on Zach Collaros, and it can be a little risky with him. Although he's consistent, he has those high percentage throws because that's the way the system is built. How the system is built, but you gotta get the run game going. That's your bread and butter. There's a reason why, and on the west side of the ball for most outstanding player, Brady Oliveira is the guy who's up for the award. So there was a reason why he was nominated most outstanding player on the western side of the bracket. So yeah, gotta get him going.
With games like that, I can see why he might not even win that award. Speaking of getting things going, let's go ahead and take it into 2-minute drill.
Total Football Talk Extra.
And here with the 2-minute drill, we have to take a look at this. We have to take a look at the games that we have here for this week. Looking at this for what it is, we got 2 games. 2 mother-fathering games we have to talk about here for the divisional round. We got the Ottawa Redblacks on Saturday, tomorrow at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, traveling to Toronto to take on the Argonauts. And then at 6:30, we have the BC Lions traveling to Saskatchewan to take on the Roughriders. First round bye teams, the Montreal Alouettes and the Blue Bombers that we were just talking about for this past week's game of the week. But let's start this off with the Ottawa Redblacks and the Toronto Argonauts. Who wins this game and why, Ryan McCarthy?
Whew. Well, up until about a month ago, I had my doubts about the Toronto Argonauts because I didn't really know who they were. Actually, probably want to say about last weeks ago. I didn't know who they were. I thought they were this close to being caught by Hamilton for the last playoff spot for third place in the division, and then all of a sudden, like all cylinders just started clicking between the offensive side of the ball with Chad Kelly and with their running back. Not trying to remember who it is. Not Deontay McMahon. I can't remember his name all of a sudden. Anyway, their running game got going. Their passing game got going. Mackay Polk is certainly a guy you want to keep your eye on for sure. He started to come on the last half of the season, especially with Chad Kelly being behind the ball behind and at quarterback. With Ottawa, you gotta outscore. You gotta outscore your opponent because your defense has not been there for the last month and a half. I think the loss of Adarius Pickett has been huge against the Redblacks. Came through last week with that goal line stand to win the game in your home finale. But this game is too important to let it get away from you. So you got to keep up in the score, and you can't fall behind 38-6 like you did 2 weeks ago in Toronto, and then have to rally back in the fourth quarter and convert on 2 onside kicks, not 1 but 2 onside kicks to keep it close. So that being said, I think Toronto's defense is too good for against Ottawa. I think it's gonna come down to the running game. And Toronto's running game is miles ahead of the Ottawa Redblacks because they don't have a true running back. They don't have a true number one, unlike the Toronto Argonauts. So Kadeem Carey, that's what I was thinking of. Kadeem Carey, he finished third in the league in rush yards this year. So that's going to be the big difference in my mind is the run game. And I think Toronto's run game can, if they win the possession battle and they can stay on the field and just wear down the Redblacks defense, I think Toronto wins this game. I think that's what will happen. And I think Toronto wins this game because they've had so much momentum going over the last month and a half, building. You just kind of sense that they could make a run. And this is the first step towards that run. So I'm going to take Toronto in this game.
Let me talk to you.
I agree with everything that Ryan just said, and Toronto is going to serve that big fat. To the Redblacks, who were on one dumpster Pelican streak of performance from a group of people known as professional football players for quite some time. Okay. We just saw them win. That was their Grey Cup this past weekend. All right. That's why I agree with what Ryan said. And if you disagree, you're basically sitting over there saying,
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
And in that case, if you're going to say that to us for our choice for this pick, then
stay off the weed.
Along with
Stop it. Get some help.
Come on, Bruce.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Absolutely. Let's take it into our final game of the weekend.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
For our final game of the weekend that we have to review in this semifinal round, the BC Lions, who finished the year 9-9, taking on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Ryan McCarthy, who wins this game and why?
Woo. BC looked impressive in their home finale, in their season finale a couple weeks ago. When Rick Campbell finally decided to put in Vernon Adams Jr. at quarterback. They looked better. I mean, Vernon Adams can sling the rock. We know that. He's also prone to throwing the ill-timed interception. And Saskatchewan has ball hawks. All right. Let's visit this way. Between Saskatchewan and Montreal, they got ball hawk. Why are you moving closer? Why is your camera moving closer? I know what you're doing. I know what you're trying to do. But let me state my case first. BC, but let's put it this way. That was one of their fourth win in the last 3 months. 4 wins in the last 3 months. And you took on a Montreal team who were resting their starters in the second half of that game. Granted, that game was pretty much over by the time the second half was on. But then you look at the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They're getting healthy at the right time. Defense is playing very well at the right time. They're streaking they're streaking at the right time. They won the last 4 out of 5 to go to end the season. But I look at history, and that history is about a month ago. These two teams met in Saskatchewan on a Friday night, and Saskatchewan gave the BC Lions a big, fat, juicy
Yeah.
This game's going to be close. It's not going to be the 38-9 beating that was about a month ago. This game's going to be a little bit closer. This game might come down to the final possession, I think. But Saskatchewan's defense is better. They know how to pressure the quarterback. They know how to stop the run. If they can stop the run, if they can stop William Stanback, again, who was second in the league, finished second in rushing yards this year. They need to stop William Stanback and put the onus on Vernon Adams Jr. And I think they can do that. They're going to have a ruckus crowd at Mosaic Stadium. It's going to be filled to the brim with crazy Rough Rider fans. 13th man could make a difference. And I think at the end of the game, it'll be a close game, but I'm going with the Rough Riders.
Yes!
I'm not saying that to placate my co-host. I'm just saying it because it's facts. It's facts. They're the better team.
Snowman.
Sorry, Snowman.
Sorry, Snowman.
What?
I said sorry, Snowman.
What?
Is that a total?
Sorry.
Surprise, motherfucker.
I mean, I know you probably.
You like that? You like that?
But here and now.
Oh, my brother. Testify.
I'm trying. This may be a homer pick. I don't even care if it is. But I'm going with the Saskatchewan Roughriders to win in every single way that Ryan just said because it sounds phenomenal. That's my pick. The Saskatchewan Roughriders win this game tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So our picks this week are the Toronto Argonauts and the Saskatchewan Roughriders to face off against the Alouettes and the Blue Bombers in the CFL Division Finals. And the winner of those games goes on to the Grey Cup. We're getting close to figuring out what this picture is actually going to culminate to be there, Mr. McCarthy. And we can actually talk about that here as we go into the postgame.
Total Football Talk Extra.
As long as it's one.
And here in the post game, we talk about our final thoughts heading into this week of football action. Mr. McCarthy, what are your thoughts before we have to bow on out of here?
All right. So on Saturday, The news leaked from Arash Madani of Sportsnet that Commissioner Randy Ambrosi, who's been a commissioner of the CFL for I think the last 5-6 seasons, would announce his retirement on Tuesday. That news leaked out on Saturday, so a few days ahead. But he made his Randy Ambrosi made his announcement on Tuesday. So with Randy Ambrosi on the way out, and the league governors having a decision to make about who will be the next commissioner of the Canadian Football League, I'm going to throw my hat in because I got some ideas for this league. I can help make this league grow. So let's take a look at this television contract that we have here. So the CFL right now is being broadcast exclusively on Bell Media. Bell Media owns TSN, they own CTV, they own RDS, which is the Quebecois television station. That deal, however, ends in 2026. So here's what I would do. It's worth $50 million annually. Guess what, guys? At the end of 2026, it could be the bidding war for the 2027 season. I'm opening it up to all takers, in whether it be TSN, whether it be Rogers Sportsnet, whether it be the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which used to have the CFL on the regular, had the Grey Cups game on their television up until 2007. It has not been, the Grey Cup has not been on CBC since 2007. You got to pay to watch it, basically. So at the end of 2026, when this contract ends, currently worth $50 million, going to open up to everyone who wants in, whether, again, TSN/RDS, Sportsnet, The Score, Barstool, CBC, whoever. If you want to broadcast this, come and take it. Come and take it. Same with American television. The CFL is getting a cool $1 million from CBS to broadcast on CBS Sports Network, which, from what I remember, primarily airs rodeo and the Big Three, and also the Ice Three. Basically, a lot of stuff that you don't really see on mainstream television. They put it on there, and college football. But you're the Mountain West and the group of 5 schools. Let's open up that contract too. Let's get the CFL on American television, because Americans, believe it or not, got a big American audience. You got a big country of 330 million people, 330 million football fans who want to see more football. America. So you can't just have it on CBS Sports Network, as a buy-in on your upper tier on cable or on Fubo or on Sling or on the streaming stations. You can't have that. No. We need to bring in some revenue. Speaking of revenue, let's talk about some of the games that are featured during the season. Touchdown Atlantic, Touchdown Pacific, coming soon, Touchdown USA. Open up that market, baby. Gotta bring in some revenue. Again, make this an annual event. Have one game in the United States of America, broadcast it and put it in an MLS arena, Major League Soccer arena. There's some pretty solid arenas that can host a CFL game that has a big enough field to host a CFL game. Could restructure the CBA contract. Gotta raise that minimum. You gotta make it attractive for not only American players to want to come here, but also Canadian players to stay in the league for a long time. Also, open up the market to a 10th CFL team. We need to even things up in the East Division. So I'm going to open it up from the Maritimes all the way through Southern Ontario for a 10th CFL team. Let's bring in another team. And we also, on couple more things, and I'll go to Drew. We need to expand the audience for CFL Plus. You can't have it just on the web. You need to expand it. You need to bring it into this 21st century. People watch streaming on their phone. They'll watch it on their streaming device, on their television, on their smart TV. They can't access it on a browser. You gotta have an app available. And lastly, we need to explode the league marketing budget. and not just build it around the teams like they've done for the 100+ years, or for in this instance the last 70 years for the modern CFL game. We need to build it around the players. And also, I'm also going to restructure player contracts. They don't have to be just a one and done deal. We want players to stay in their markets for a long time. And I know this is a transient league. It's always been a transient league. The transient league, it needs to kind of come to an end, or to a stop, or to a halt, a brief pause, because you want your players to be in the market where they're in for a long time. You want them to build. You want to build around those players, whether it be quarterback or running back or tight end, or not tight end. That's pretty much obsolete in the CFL, but linebacker, defensive players. You want your players to stand out. When I watch a CFL game on CFL Plus or on CBS Sports Network, the players aren't featured. The league is featured. So you, like the NFL does, you need to market your league around the players who are currently playing, the star players, because if they want to be around here a long time, they want to make their name, you want to make their name known throughout the league, you got to market the league around your players. And that's my platform as CFL commissioner. Vote for me.
Nice. I'm voting for Mr. McCarthy because he will make some real change in the CF mother-fathering L. And
let's make the CFL great again.
Made you look. Oh man, that's great. But no, looking at this for what it is, I'll keep mine kind of brief. I just basically want to express how glad I am that there's 3 teams we don't have to talk about anymore after this week. We definitely don't have to talk about the team known as the Calgary Stampeders. We don't have to talk about the team known as the Edmonton Elks, and we do not have to talk about Tiger Kitties anymore, because even though they gave us some glimmers of hope, both them and the Elks at one point winning a good stretch of games, we don't have to talk about them any longer. The most important team that I'm glad we don't have to talk about after this week for quite some time are the Calgary Stampeders. Woo! I'm just hoping that they can get it together well enough to where we can have some exciting things to talk about in 2025, because it was not fun to watch or cover them in any way, whether it's live or highlights, you name it.
No,
it's terrible. I did not enjoy it. But to those of you who've been watching and dropping in comments throughout this show,
What's that?
Classic.
I wanted to make sure I clicked that button for you guys before we got on out of here, because I normally do it as we're getting out of here, because we've seen teams and covered teams throughout this tenure, throughout 21 consecutive weeks of covering CFL football between Total Football Talk and now Total Football Talk Extra. We've discussed many teams taking that big old But at least now, for the next couple of weeks, the next few weeks, for the semifinals, the division finals, and then the Grey Cup, we have competitive football in every single game.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
Bishop is out there saying somewhere, hell no, because one of these upcoming games, we're going to see a dumpster Pelican performance. The question is, who is it going to be? Because all 6 of these teams are going into the playoffs with this on their shoulder.
I think I got my swagger back.
However,
you guys want to hear a fucking story?
There's no way that all 6 of them could be on the same level.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Is what I'm saying to them, because they need to look themselves in the mirror and be ready for anything. Get ready to bite off kneecaps.
You can't handle the truth.
You know it's true.
That's terrible.
Don't say that to me. You need to
acknowledge me.
It might not make any sense now, but eventually it will. And if it doesn't, it's only because you.
You're fucking scared. Yeah, you're fucking scared.
Come on now.
Let me talk to you.
It's time we see some real competitive Canadian football, and it all mother-fathering starts this weekend for the first time. 21 consecutive weeks, we get to see consistent competitive football, and I am hyped.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Is that a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
Oh!
Yeah.
Is this just as disturbing as that Bears fan when I was trying to conduct that post-game interview last weekend? Toss that ball up in the air.
Washington's still not a playoff team.
And this motherfather just interrupted my interview. But right here, we're going to keep going because we're going to have a great time. Shout out to Dude Man who came on over. But straight up, 12-7 going into the last of the fourth quarter. Jaden Daniels, after the Bears scored a touchdown, went for a 2-point conversion. They were down 15-12. All they needed.
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does it for my post-game rant. Mr. McCarthy, you have any final things to say before we get on out of here?
Nope. I think you capped it off pretty well. I'm ready for some competitive football. And I'm hoping the weekend doesn't disappoint.
Well, good luck with your other show that you have going on tonight as well. Might have to crack a beverage open and check that out later on. But right here and now, Total Football Talk XTRA has come to a close. Everyone come back next week for episode 10 next Friday afternoon, 5:05 p.m. Eastern. And as always, stay safe out there in these streets.